say.
7 o'clock p.m. Welcome to this evening's school board meeting.
Penny.
And do we have anyone signed up for public comments right now?
Yeah.
No? Okay. And I understand that, Jeremy, you're going to do the student representative report for us.
Yeah, they apologize for not being able to be here today.
Is he really?
Did you want to make a
Yes,
public
what's he
comment?
doing?
Two of them, please.
Okay.
MP.
Hold up, Jeremy.
Hello, Charlie.
That's awesome.
He's on the Army base.
Okay, the first thing, and I don't know when we want to choose to do this, but I just wanted to bring it up. Junius Adams, he wrestled for Monadnock, and he was the state champion in the 182-pound class. And as our tradition, I would like to see us buy him his jacket or something similar, and I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We can't make any motions in public comments.
Understand?
Yep, but
That's
we'll
right.
take care of that a little later on, so thank you.
Okay, and the second thing that I wanted to ask is, who will make the call on canceling the vote or adjusting the vote if the weather's bad next Tuesday?
Adjusting the vote if the weather is bad.
It is the responsibility of the individual towns that are hosting the polling locations.
So the school does not have any say?
No.
Yeah, I believe it's the moderator.
It's not the district moderator, but he does it in consultation with
Oh,
the
the town,
towns,
yeah.
yes. Yep.
All right. Good. Now, Jeremy, go ahead.
They would like, Taylor and Justin would like me to report out that Fiddler on the Roof is opening Thursday, weather permitting, and will run through Friday and Saturday. Evening shows are at 7:30, and they invite everyone to attend. Second, on March 15th, the honors biology classes will be doing a planaria presentation. It's a school presentation that they did at Keene State in the Mountain View Room, which is in the Student Center, at 6:30. And they'd reach out and let people know about that to come see what our honors biology is doing.
6:30 on which day?
The 15th. March 15th.
15. Okay. Very good. We've got it sort of easy tonight in that we don't have any matters that require our action. However, we do have several things that we need to discuss. The school board self-assessment, I've only gotten a couple more since the last time we discussed this. Really not enough to tabulate. So we'll give it another week, and then when the new board is here, I'll present what I have. And, whether as chair or elsewise, I'll just share what it is that we all came up with and what we think we need to work on for the new board year. I also want to recognize Phyllis for your years of service. I tried to look up how many years you've actually been serving on the board, but
12.
I couldn't go back far enough. 12 years.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your service here.
Thank you.
And Nick, I understand you're running a write-in campaign, so we expect you to do again?
Well, maybe.
Maybe?
We'll see.
Okay.
See how the town of Roxbury people feel.
All right. Superintendent's report, please.
Also recognize Bob Mitchell for his time on the school board as well.
Bob,
My short time, yes.
sorry. I'm sorry. I had forgotten that you're leaving us.
We just
I
don't
was
wanna think
hoping it
about
wasn't true.
Right.
Or
And
any
Bob,
of
you've
you.
been with us for 3?
Just 3, yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Lisa,
No problem.
covering for me.
I handed out a few things that weren't in your packet, and they're not for action, just for information. I did hand out a draft 2018-19 calendar. I just emailed this out today to our 3 collective bargaining units for their input and review. So this is it says version 2. It's version 2 through the administrator's hands, and so it looks very similar to this year's calendar. We did look at the draft calendar that Keene had provided us. It does align as much as possible with Keene's calendar. There are some things that aren't lockstep, but Lisa Spencer was very involved in the development of this calendar and feels that any of those small discrepancies are manageable on our end. So probably at the next board meeting, we'll either be looking to approve this version, or if I get some feedback from our associations or anybody who finds any typos or other errors particularly in where the dates fall, just let me know and I'll make those revisions before we try to move this forward. I also handed out an updated letter on SB 193, my pet legislation. It's, as you may recall, it made its way to House Finance where it has been holed up while the committee looks at the potential financial impact to the state and theoretically looking at impacts to municipalities, but I don't know that they've looked at the municipality impact as much as they have the bottom line to the state. So the House Finance Committee proposed some revisions to SB 193 that would limit eligibility, change the stabilization grant calculation, and in the end cost local municipalities, towns, and districts more potentially than the original version, which is what the letter that I drafted is in front of you speaks to. Weather permitting, I'll be traveling to Concord on Friday, once again, to testify on this particular bill. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Is there any way to say how you, to look into a crystal ball and see where we think this is going? I mean, does it have enough steam to get through the Senate?
Well, it already, the original version already passed the House and Senate, or at least a revised version had passed through the full House and Senate.
Back at committee, right?
It had to go from House to House Finance, and that's where it's stuck right now. So what we are hoping to do is to help it die in committee. I guess that is what you call it. I just hate saying that. But, you know, I don't know. I don't have a good sense of what the feeling is of the full committee at this point. The last time I testified to the House Finance Committee, I had a very good feeling of the tenor of the room and how it seemed folks felt about that version of the bill. So it'll be interesting to see what the tenor is this week with the revised version and the new numbers that have been run by Reaching Higher New Hampshire and the Finance Authority itself. Which still, it lessens the impact to the state, but like I said, it shifts more of the burden to districts. So that's for you as well. Also in your packet, or not in your packet, I handed out separately a small packet. The top page of the packet is the NHSBA model policy for school cancellations. And then we actually have 3 weather cancellations and emergency policies that all are similar, that are modeled after that policy. The last 2 pages of that are a couple of letters from members of the cast of The Fiddler on the Roof that is set to open on Thursday. So as you can, I'll summarize the letter. They are asking that even if we don't have school on Thursday, if the roads seem okay, if it's okay for their play to go on. So I wanted to bring this forward to you. It was addressed to both the administration and the board. But I also wanted to speak really quickly about our policy and the NHSBA policy, model policy, because they pretty much mirror each other. The School Boards Association does recommend that if school is canceled, all activities are canceled as well. From a strictly liability point of view, it sends a conflicting message if you cancel school because it's too dangerous, and then later on say, well, maybe it's not. I think that, you know, it's a huge responsibility to make the initial determination in the first place. As you know, sometimes we get it right and sometimes we get it wrong. You know, with respect to athletics and other activities, the vast majority of the time they can be rescheduled. And I received a communication from the NHIAA today regarding the playoff games that were scheduled for tomorrow night. They've tentatively scheduled them for Thursday, but if districts have policies that prohibit them from playing on Thursday, they will move them to Friday, which is what, you know, they are responsible to honor district policies and not hold those against students. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention, and I figured it was going to come up anyway. So if this would be an opportune time to discuss, I'm putting it out there.
Yeah, okay. Rob?
Since you are the weather guru, what is the latest forecast in regards to when the snow will be stopping?
Right now, they still have a winter warning posted from 1 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow to 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday, and they indicate that it will continue. There will continue to be snow showers throughout the afternoon and evening on Thursday, without the significant 1 to 2 inch accumulation that we're going to have in the bulk of the storm. In this area of the state, anywhere from 12 to 18 potentially upwards of 20, 24 inches, depending on where you are. I sent you all the weather update packet that I received from Homeland Security earlier this evening. It has some really great maps that show you expect at least this much. Here's the most likely scenario, and this is if it's really bad. That's sort of the third one.
Send that to our emails? I'm sorry to.
I sent it to your board emails.
Okay.
Yep. So some light bedside reading. I did check before I came here. They hadn't updated the forecast at all. If you put NOAA, what I usually go to look at is if you just put NOAA, NOAA, it'll bring you up to the National Weather Service website. And you can go find my weather and just put in the zip code. Scroll down the page that it brings you to, and there's a little blue link that says hour by hour forecast, and it gives you a breakdown, a bar graph of 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and it gives you a nice visual of the path that they're predicting for the snow. I mean, obviously, try to make our calls as much as possible based on what we're seeing outside. We've already issued an early release for tomorrow, as you know, because of the timing of when the storm is predicted to hit. If I wake up tomorrow morning and discover that it's already snowing and they're saying it's going to be much worse much sooner, we may have to revise that decision. But we have the ability to do that. Same thing on Thursday. If they're predicting it's going to go later and it stops sooner, maybe we'll just have a delay. That would be great. And then we won't have to have this conversation. But it is right now, it is predicted to stop in the early afternoon, but continue snow showers through the evening.
As a parent, I just want to say thank you for letting us know so early that there's going to be an early release tomorrow. That was very helpful.
Thank you.
Nick?
I'm not sure if you're looking for a motion from the board. I was going to say, but they could leave it up to Lisa to make that determination.
And that's what the policy dictates.
Yeah, so as it stands, if we don't make a motion to the contrary, we're just going to follow the policy. If we have a 2-hour delay only, then the show can go on. Eric?
I would like us to consider the other, because you're talking a cancellation of a play that these kids have put hundreds of hours into since January. And if the weather, and I get the whole weather thing, but I think we should let Lisa make the call as far as what time to cancel it. If we're going to cancel school at 8 o'clock tomorrow night for Thursday, we shouldn't be making the call to cancel the play then, because we don't know what the weather's going to be. We should wait and see. This is a local event. This isn't something where we're shipping the kids 2 hours to go. This is a local event. We'll know what the conditions of the roads are. So, I mean, I would say we wait till 2 o'clock and decide, and let Lisa make that call.
I have a suggestion that we at least honor the students by reading what it is that they've written to us and not take any sort of a motion or action on this until a little bit later in the meeting when we've at least had a chance to read what it is that they've written. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Rob, was it you who had your hand up? I did. Brian?
Yep. Lisa did.
I just wanted to also note, in addition to communicating with the NHIAA, I did speak with Lisa Spencer about not straight out canceling, but rescheduling the show, which is a possibility. We did that with our Christmas show this year. We had to reschedule one of our performances.
I've got Brian first and then you, Eric.
Without stopping short of making a motion, Eric, I, absolutely appreciate the concern about all, the time and work that students have put into it. One thing I think that often, groups forget about is it's not just about weather and roads. We're talking about potentially significant clean out that we have to get done before the next business day. Our crew is probably going to run, Dave, pretty heavy, many hours, pushing them to, get stuff done that we wouldn't normally cram into a schedule, puts a lot of pressure that I think we, have the ability to control.
Okay. Thank you very much. Eric?
It's my understanding the show cannot be changed, and the reason being is because they have a orchestra that plays for the show who are not cast members, who are paid to come and play, and they have a certain time that they can do it, and there's not an ability to reschedule.
So it's an outside vendor?
Yes. Well, no, it's outside musicians that are doing it. There's some that aren't, but it's my understanding that it cannot be changed.
All right. Let's continue discussing this under D, other matters for discussion. So at least we have a chance to absorb a little of this. We'll come back to it later in the meeting. Okay?
Great. I did email everybody a copy of a bulletin from Drummond Woodsum, which is the law firm that Jim O'Shaughnessy works for, regarding the March 14th walkout that you may have heard about on Facebook or seen on CNN in support of the students in the Parkland tragedy. And we'll talk about it more in non-public because it really relates to it's kind of we'll talk about sort of what we know, what folks are thinking in our region, in our school, and what we've talked about in terms of keeping kids safe in the event that anyone participates in that. But that would be more appropriate to discuss in non-public because it relates to safety planning. But I wanted to make you aware, share that document with you, and then kind of follow up with what we're looking to do if we do have any students that choose to participate. I also wanted to update you. I talked before about Cutler receiving the infrastructure funds from the Department of Education for the security cameras. We also did submit applications for similar projects at Gilsum, Mount Caesar, and here. And those were submitted. The due date was the 5th. They're in. And so now we wait to learn if we are the recipient of any of those. And remember that these are all because they're safety grants. It's an 80-20 match. We match 20%. What I would anticipate is that once we find out if we were awarded these grants, we can look at unallocated fund balance from this year and designate some of that to that 20%. I believe we can also do in-kind, so that can be a soft match. We can match with labor or our own, some of our own materials and things like that. So I'm not overly concerned about making the match. But I wanted to let you know we did submit those, so fingers crossed that we get some of that money that's left. And I think that is all I had for public session. We will have a need for non-public under B for hiring and I for safety. And that is just the fundraiser update.
All right. Very good, thank you. Cheshire Career Center, I'll let you start, Winston, and then we'll have Jeremy work with you on that as well. Do you have anything from your side that you wanted to say about Cheshire Career Center?
No, you got to remember the power. The power could go out, and that doesn't help anything, because we do not have a generator for this building, is that right?
Small one.
Small one, we don't have enough to,
Yeah, it wouldn't run the
we
whole
do not
building.
have one appropriately, yeah. So we have to keep that in mind too, because there's a good chance the power is going to go out if you get that much snow in this area.
Thank you, okay. But nothing on Cheshire Career Center?
Jeremy's going to report on the
Go
Career
ahead.
Center.
Go ahead.
So the report out is where we are. So we are at a place where we're trying to renew our agreement with the whole Cheshire Career Center. It's the 30-year agreement, and we've hammered it out. We've spent or 20-year.
20.
We've hammered it out. We're at a good place with it. I talked with Eric Feldborg today at the state. He's the director of the Bureau of Career Development. The state has to approve any plan, basically, that we have. He put it back out to everyone. It looks like it just stalled a little bit. He put it back out to everyone to just kind of give it its final look over. We've had our meetings, and what we hope is that we'll be signing off on it soon. I'll be able to bring it to the board for your review, and then our board chair will sign it, and that agreement will be done. I spoke to Rob Millay today about it as well, just to find out, what's going on with everything that's in the paper. And he shared that next year, so the motion that was put out for the director of the Career Center to report directly to the superintendent or the assistant superintendent has been tabled, and instead he's been directed by his education committee, I believe, to form a committee to look at the Career Center operations next year, and we will be included in that. He'll reach out to us for board representation and administrative representation to be part of that conversation, to look at, basically everything. Look at the program top to bottom, not so much the agreement piece of it, but the operations of it. How are we scheduling? How are we getting kids there? How are we advertising? All of those pieces, and how is it working with the 3 different districts?
For the understanding of the full board, which of the SAUs writes the budget for Cheshire Career Center?
SAU 29.
Yeah, Keen.
Okay, so it's SAU 29, and it's not a completely separate entity. It technically is handled by SAU 29, the budget is.
I think it's actually by Keene itself, not the SAU. But either way, yes, it's handled, everything is handled by them.
All right, any other questions about that? Phyllis?
I wanted to know, is our agreement in line with Fall Mountain and Keene? Are they pretty similar?
Yeah, they are pretty similar. The only real difference for us right now is that we are basically just a sending district. We don't have any CTE programs here that we can offer that isn't being offered there. So Keene is a sending and receiving district because most of it happens at the Career Center. Fall Mountain has worked they have one program, one agricultural program.
Yeah.
That they want to be a receiving program.
Right, I think back years ago, they allowed them to send them over to Vermont, Springfield's, because they had a up-to-date program at that time. I
Yeah.
don't know what they are doing now.
So there was some discussion about that, and they brought us a couple ideas of other CTE programs. That they brought it to the Career Center Advisory Committee. They want to do some ROTC and integrated graphics program that is kind of sitting and waiting for the agreement to be done. But yeah, we're basically equal. The agreement looks the same.
Very good. Moving on to policy, Scott's not here to fill us in on exactly where we stand with policy. However, we do know we've got a batch of policies for first read. We don't have to take a motion on any of them. Just know that they are in your packets, and we'll be reviewing them over the next 2 weeks so that we can take action the second meeting in March. Are there any other committees that need to report right now?
CRC met tonight. We talked about taking next steps in the roundtable, the forum information that is all set up to go mid to end of March, with feedback being sought from staff, students, families, and yeah, that's it. And we're hoping for a really quick turnaround on that. We'll be able to compile that information. It's all done, or mostly done electronically, so that the committee's next meeting will be able to look at that and see how it compares to the feedback we got last year as part of the roundtable discussions. We also talked about setting a schedule for moving CRC meetings out into the community. And in fact, the SAU conference room, which is not conducive for CRC, will not be conducive for any meeting soon because it's going to be repurposed. And so the timing is good on taking a look at meeting in other places and how we can get word out better so that people know it's a forum for them to come to. And lastly, we're talking about moving forward with the strategic planning on communication. Admin has been working on that, and we'll continue to work on that. And we'll take it up again as soon as it's in a place that it seems appropriate to do that.
All right, thank you very much. Any other committees that need to report? All right. We do want to talk about school safety. We've been asked to address this. It is something that we are not able to address in a public session. However, we can say that it's very important to us. We will be talking about it. And Neil, maybe you can come up and help us understand why it's important for us to talk about that in non-public and not with. You can do that now. I mean, if you want to explain to everyone why we're not going to talk about it right this second, and we're going to wait until later.
Yeah, the real reason is there's an RSA that says we can't. That's that simple. We can talk generalities, but I can guarantee any questions you have will quickly diverge from generalities to specifics, and that's what we can't discuss in a public session.
And not to mention the fact that if we share specifics with anyone in this room, other people will read the minutes, they'll know about it, and they'll know what we're planning. And they'll
Absolutely.
be able to get around it, right? Yep. Okay. Very good. So we will be talking about that a little bit later in the meeting. It's very important to us. It's not going to go unaddressed for sure. Let's see, update on status of the capped pipes in the trades rooms.
Dave?
It's you, Dave. Come on.
That's general. Yeah, so Where are we, and what pipes are we talking about?
Talking about specifically the pipes, excuse me, in the trades area,
Okay,
metal shop against
Ron's
the wall.
room.
Yes.
Okay.
Against the wall. When I took a tour, he told me that those pipes were gas pipes and they had to be capped because no one knew where they came from or went, and that's why they were also couldn't. At least this is the impression. Maybe he didn't say that exactly. Why they couldn't do welding anymore or something to that effect in there. But the question became: A, is it a hazard, or B, is there truly gas in those pipes that we don't know where it comes from?
B, and we know where it comes from. All right, actually it comes, the 6 tanks that we have running the kitchen and the school and the boilers, comes off the same main. Actually goes down into the ceiling, runs down that hallway. That line actually goes all the way to the home ec room because we have one good gas stove in there.
Right.
I don't see any hazards to that. I believe the kilns probably have been used in 40 years maybe. Not sure. They were there when I was there. I don't see a hazard. Everything's safe as far as I can see. I mean, do they want to move the kilns? We could. I don't think you'll ever be melting metal again into a pot. So that might be a safety issue, but the gas really is not a safety issue. They were used to melt lead or steel or any of that, or temper steel. When I was
That was fine by me. I didn't bring it up.
I'm not sure what the concern really is, but
Nick?
I was mainly concerned by the comments that Rob had last week, where it seemed like there was some unsurety of what gas was in the lines. Are they marked at all?
probably above the ceiling, yes.
Okay.
Okay, and you asked Ron, he's not, he doesn't know the building, it's not his job to know the building. So if you have some of these walks, you may want to ask me to join you, and then your questions might be answered right there too.
Right.
Just
There's no
could be a-
concern for student safety in that area.
No, we have gas lines running to the science rooms. We've had all the gas lines checked. I think it was only like a year and a half ago. Every one of the gas lines in here. We've had them checked at all our schools. We do it every couple of years,
Right.
just for that issue.
Yeah, the way the area was kind of roped off when I looked at it in the fall was kind of weird, but as long
That's
as
a blind
it's safe.
spot. Maybe he doesn't want anybody walking and hiding over there or something. I don't know, but there's no safety concern that I'm worried about.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. The next item was brought to us by Neil Moriarty. Discuss copying approved district documentation to a custodian for preservation. I don't have a lot to say on this, except that I know that Neil is interested in having us take approved minutes and official documentation that's been finalized and have it stored with somebody who is outside the district so that we know that it's not modified or altered in any way after it's approved. Does anyone have any discussion on this, or should we perhaps bump it to the next agenda when Neil is here to expand? Okay, so that's what we'll do. And that brings us back to discussion on our performance that is to take place on Thursday. I'm going to give you guys just a second to read the letter that came from the students so that we can have an informed discussion about where they're coming from.
It's the last 2 pages.
It's a very fervent letter.
give it just one more minute. I see some folks still reading.
We'll do it again.
All right, and to recap what we've heard so far, in support of carrying on with the show, we heard Eric speak with us a little bit about the orchestra, the money that would be lost there, also in ticket sales. And we had heard, was Winston, who talked about what do we do if the power goes out? We wouldn't be able to carry on the parking lot and the time constraint and getting that cleaned up, and also the policy itself and the liability that it may bring. Does anyone else have additional aspects that they want to bring into the discussion at this time? Nick?
Yes, I think the superintendent is the person that's going to be most knowledgeable about this in that time frame. She's going to be in touch with people who have to do the cleanup. She's going to be in touch with the staff who may or may not be available. And I think it should be up to her to make that determination. We have a policy that says so anyways.
I would agree with that.
Nick, are you saying that if the superintendent wants to make a decision that's contrary to the policy, we would authorize her to do that, or am I just reading between the lines?
If I know we have the policy where it says that if school is canceled, that we're not supposed to have the activities at night. I would say to give her the leeway to make a decision contrary to that if she feels that that's the best decision.
Okay. Is that a motion?
Sure.
Second.
Okay, so that was Nick, and I got Phyllis as the second.
Okay.
Sorry. Any discussion on that? Yeah, Rob?
I like the idea of giving Lisa, because I trust her judgment implicitly in regards to closings. So do my children, by the way. They like the snow days. I would caution us not to open up Pandora's box of all kinds of events. And so what I guess I would ask is it possible to refine the amendment in such a way to just include events that are non-reproducible? In other words, the NHIA, if we're talking about games, they'll move the games. They'll reschedule the games. This
I
is not
understood
scheduled.
this motion to pertain to this event on Thursday only, not any
Oh, okay,
others.
that's my,
Did you just compare snow day to Pandora's box?
Order. Okay, anyone else? Yeah,
Yeah, the letter mentions being devastated by loss of money. What are we talking about here for dollars? An afternoon, evening performance? Are we talking, $8,000 to $10,000, or are we talking $100? I understand their reason for being devastated by not being able to perform, but I think if we had to cancel school, I think the school board should consider if any costs come out of that, if they can't meet, we should back them up.
how would we know? People have already paid for their tickets, and how would we know if everyone's going to ask for their money back? Who accounts for that?
Again, my understanding through talking with the principal is that we would look to reschedule, so there would be an alternate date. That was the last conversation I had early this afternoon.
And pay the orchestra for an additional performance if necessary.
I just sent her a message and asked about that.
Okay. Karen?
My big concern with this would mostly be the students that are driving, new drivers, especially those that are living in, say, Fitzwilliam, Gilsum, Troy. And if something was to happen, that's a big liability and concern.
I vaguely remember a similar situation in 2007, but it was a student from Conan, I think. And that's been in my mind too.
Yeah.
All right, is there any other discussion on the motion?
You're on the side of caution.
Eric, did you have anything else to add? Or are you reading something there?
No, I understand the safety, and I would trust that that we can make a decision based on the road conditions right then. And I understand if it's bad weather, we're not going to have the show. But we should wait to make that decision. And if the weather's bad at 10 o'clock, it doesn't mean the weather's going to be bad at 5 or 6 o'clock. And we should look at the roads. And I would trust that a parent or that Lisa is going to say, hey, if the roads are bad, we're not going to do it. And I think we should make the decision based on that. I mean, you're not going to send the kids out if it's bad weather. But also, if we call off school at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, are we really going to cancel? We're going to cancel the show then if we're not changing this? And we have no idea what the weather's going to be.
Do you have confidence that this motion addresses your concern and that Lisa could make that decision?
I think Lisa should be able. Yeah, Lisa should make the call. But I also encourage that that when she makes the call, not to make it based on canceling school. Make it based on what the road conditions are at the time.
Nick?
I was trying to clarify that the we, I don't want to insert we into this. I think it should be Lisa that makes the call.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to, echo, I think what Brian talked about with just the magnitude of the storm and the cleanup. And the other piece to consider is it's not just our kids and their families driving, it's our staff. We have a lot of staff members who don't live in district. And, depending on where you are, you could be experiencing a very different storm. And so that would also have to be a consideration. And that's a hard one to do because I don't know, who all is going to report and where they're all coming from and what their timeframes are and what their roads are like. I monitor the roads in our district, and I work with Dave to monitor our facilities and to ensure that they're ready to go. And, my concern, I think the policy works the way it's written because I'm not a fan of black and white things most of the time, but when it comes to this weighing of safety versus everything else, it's already a precarious decision to make to cancel, and the way the policy is written and recommended by the School Boards Association just takes away that ambiguity, and it makes that decision easier to stand by. Not easier is not the best word, but maybe justifiable to stand by. So that's all I have to say.
Bob?
I think Lisa has answered the question I was going to pose, and I'm wondering if you are uncomfortable being granted this special authority, decision-making authority, and if you would prefer that we not pass this motion and that we adhere to our policies.
I appreciate the question. Thanks. And I am uncomfortable. And I think we should adhere to our policy.
And I guess my position is, since it is a safety issue, and we have a variety of road conditions throughout the district, I would not support this motion and think that we should adhere to our policy.
Okay. Is everyone ready to, Nick, okay.
Yeah, if Lisa's not comfortable making that decision, I'll happily rescind my motion, so.
I would too.
Yep.
Okay.
Has there been conversation about rescheduling it, like a week from then, or?
Like I said, I talked with Lisa Spencer earlier today about that potential. She seemed to think that was a possibility. We, again, kind of through the whirlwind of the day, haven't nailed down anything definitive. And remember, we may only have a delay Thursday, so this may be moot.
That's right.
That's certainly the hope, anyway. But we'll do all that we can to reschedule, for sure.
Can we get a feeling from the board as to whether we might support some sort of expenditure to rehire the orchestra if necessary?
We don't even know.
Yeah, we don't know how much it costs, but we don't think that that's a terrible idea, I'm seeing.
No.
All right.
It's an idea worth considering.
An idea worth considering. Okay.
I would entertain the discussion.
Okay. But I think it's premature to have that discussion now. It might be too late to have the discussion 2 weeks from now because we will have already had the rescheduled performance. So how do we want to address that? Sherry?
I don't know how it's done here. Typically, those expenses are paid out of the student activity account, which typically has enough money in it that if they go in the red, the the general account can support it, and then we can, if they've gone in the red, then we can look at how much money it is that we might need to reimburse them, to return them to in the black.
Okay. Is that true, Lisa?
We have a student activity, we have one particular student activities account that is, I wouldn't call it dormant, but it was a result of when we consolidated a lot of old student accounts. As you'll recall, we're using a portion of that fund to help with the building project out beside the school, but that won't deplete the fund, and so I believe there's sufficient funds in there for this.
Is it the will of the board that we should have a motion to approve taking expenditures from that account? Eric?
I just found an email, and this is from, because I had asked a question of someone. It says, if Thursday is canceled, we will not reschedule because of orchestra royalties and rights. So they must only have the rights for so long for the show.
Right.
We can use the material.
Okay.
All right, so that answers that.
I don't think it definitively answers that because we could repurchase the royalties and rights. It's a matter of how much does that
Yeah,
cost.
I don't think you can do that. That's pretty expensive.
All right.
So that answers that.
So I think the board is saying we should just leave this in the superintendent's hands. If there is some amount of money that needs to come out of the student activities accounts, that's within your authority anyway.
It is.
Okay. And we're not going to get mad at you if you decide to take money out of that account for this purpose.
I would ask that everyone goes home and removes the silver spoons from under their pillows. Put your pajamas on the right way. Don't do a snow dance.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Should be like 3 inches of snow.
Moving along then, we have minutes from February 20th in your packet.
Lisa,
Yes.
can we take up the motion that I would like to make for the student who won the wrestling title?
Yeah, we can. I'm sorry, Eric. Yep.
Junius Adams won the Division III Wrestling Championship for the 182-pound weight class. And basically, I would like to make a motion, as we've done with other championships that have been won, that we authorize the school to buy either a jacket or something of that nature for him in appreciation of winning the championship.
About
What's that?
with
Whatever it is. If he wants a
That's
belt,
what
let's get a
wrestling's
belt.
like,
If that's what he
second
wants.
that.
A crown, I don't care.
Yeah, second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Second. I'm sorry. Opposed? And abstentions? Good. Did you state an amount in your motion, Eric?
It's whatever we normally do.
In line with what we
Whatever
normally
we
do.
normally
It's
do.
typically 75.
Yep.
So maybe not a really big gold belt.
Small.
WWE style. Okay. Now, are we ready for the minutes of February 20th? All right, I'll take a motion when you're ready.
You want a motion?
Yeah.
For the minutes? I would make that motion to approve the minutes of February 20th, public minutes.
Is there a second on that?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Very good. And for next meeting's agenda, so far I have approval of the calendar. It will be nomination of the next board chair and vice chair and SAU officers. Jeremy may have something on Cheshire Career Center, maybe. Okay.
Did you mention the district documentation custodian thing?
I have it written down here.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the next thing.
Do we ever get the, some feedback on academic performance to the education committee?
Not yet.
Not yet. Do you have anything that you could supply the board so that we'd have?
We're just getting into test now, so I don't know that I have very much to share with you yet. The SATs and the PSATs and all that is just about to happen for the upper grades. And the lower grades are just getting ready to start the New Hampshire state assessment.
Okay.
Over the next couple of weeks, I have, we have formative data, but, as I shared before, formative data is hard to explain. You can't really use formative data to look at growth. You use it to look at trends. So it's a little bit harder to explain, but I can bring it.
I would like to get, maybe it'd be useful to have a little bit of a discussion. I would like, we've talked about this, I think, every year, of having some sort of feedback on a regular basis of academic performance. We call it different things, a report card, or I'd like to have a discussion regarding that. It's something I think the board should look at, not just the financials in every board meeting, but also to have an understanding of how we're doing and what we're doing. So by what we're doing, I mean the core purpose of why we're here, which is for education. How's the education going? So it'd be nice to have some sort of report like that.
Okay. So did you understand what he's asking for, and is it something you're willing to speak to at some point in the future?
Sure. I mean, I guess that's for the board to decide what goes out of that committee, and I report out straight to the board. That's not for me to decide. I'll do whatever I'm asked to do.
Mm-hmm.
What I would caution is that talking about test data is not the best way to talk about what we're doing. Telling you what's going on in the classrooms and how we're improving our curriculum, I think, is a much stronger conversation. I can supply data and graphs and happily will, and certainly will, when we have them from, the summative assessments. You definitely have every right to those, and I want to supply those. But
I'd like to have both parts of that. I think it's important to have that, but it's also important to have an understanding of academic performance as well.
Ryan?
I think then one thing comes to mind is, if I understand, testing is only one side of, that pie. So if we are interested to see, how we're evaluating performance, is there anything else that the district has in its toolbox to have that discussion on, student performance, or are we solely, relying right now on test data? I mean, because, I guess in my mind, if test data is all we have to discuss, then I'm with Nick. I'd like to have that discussion. I mean, certainly if there's other things that, staff or other members of the team feel was important in evaluating, how our program is doing versus what we expect to get out of it, I would love to hear that too.
Sure. I think the interesting part of the conversation is, how do I package, and that's and I'll learn that, and I'll figure that out, but how do I package that for you? Because, we have monthly or weekly meetings discussing student performance with all those other indicators, and I don't know how to give you that data in a way that you're going to see it in a non-educator data way. I have to, we work with a lot of formative assessment saying, we're working on this standard and this percentage of kids needed reteaching, so how did we do it, or what do we need to do better with this reteaching? How are we looking at our ELA program and using, our monthly running records of reading progress to decide how to improve that reading program? So for me to bring, I can say this many kids made progress on their running records, it's really hard to translate that into saying this is our performance, because I can't compare that to other populations.
I think you hit it exactly, in what my mind is trying to get to. So I understand that some, a person might not test well, but I would like to make sure that everyone is making progress regardless of what level they're at. And I think it's important for us to, keep our finger on, if someone was here last year, did they improve, or have they not made any progress? They stayed the same. Did they go backwards? And I would certainly love to entertain that discussion as well, and not just test data.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have Phyllis and then you, Nick.
Okay.
Yeah. A few years back, we had a goal that every child that was possible in third grade would be reading at grade level. And that was really an eye-awakener. It also put forth a movement within the district to make literacy a priority. it would be interesting to find out how that literacy plan is doing and how many of our third graders are reading at grade level. And what do we need to do to help the ones that aren't making? Because once they read at grade level on grade 3, they're pretty much doing pretty good. They've broken the code. They've done a lot of things. And it would be nice to know that definitely we're moving to increase that percentage.
We are discussing what's going on next meeting's agenda. And so it sounds like there's a strong interest in assessment data and an update on
Lisa?
where we stand. Yeah.
I would almost make a motion, Nick said something that kind of clicked in my head. We're not here just for budget. And yet, at prior meetings in my 2 years on the board, we have a business administrator's report. We don't have an education report.
That's where I was getting at.
So the education committee report is supposed to be that.
Well, I'm talking about really high level, well, I was thinking more from a very, so Jeremy's trying to, figure out what to talk about, really high level initiatives, high level, stuff rather than the nooks and crannies. But
I have something that might address that, Nick.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify what I'm looking for. I don't want to delve into stuff that should be covered in committee, for instance, education committee. Same way when we get this every week, we're not taking away from finance. There are topics that we dig that are more appropriate for committee that should be dug into. I'm looking for, we get this every week showing, we talk about financials. We don't ever really talk about education in our normal meetings. I'd like to have some sort of report that talks about education, that gives us an idea of how we're moving. Part of that is academic performance. Part of that may be social development. But I'd like to have some sort of maybe brief for the board on how we're doing in the core purpose that we're here for.
So a discussion that Lisa and I have had, I'll get to you, Betty, in just a second, is that it would be nice if we had some folks on rotation coming in to talk about very high-level topics at each meeting. So some of the groups that we have discussed is really high-level update on fine arts, how the department is doing as a whole. Somebody to come in and say how special education is doing, what's new, and what have we accomplished lately. Maybe somebody for gifted and AP, somebody from IT one meeting, a principal from each elementary school from one meeting. We can't have everybody come in at the same time, but if we could do a comprehensive update from one subgroup at each school board meeting, we might feel like we're more connected. Does that sound like something? Yeah.
I'm definitely looking for something that's more, I'm looking for give me a couple pages of paper, or give me some executive summary type package that says this is what's going on over the past. It doesn't have to be every meeting. Let's do it once a month or something like that.
So let's assume we're going to do that and this too.
Mhm.
Can I ask for feedback from the board about which high-level grouping you'd like to hear from first? Could be Title I, ACEs. Yeah, Rob.
I want to hear from the principals. They're the boots on the ground with the teachers.
Okay, so we'll have a principal come for the next meeting and talk about what's new at the school, what do we need to look out for, what changed. Yeah.
At some point, you may want to have Andy Harrison come. The social studies department has made some really good changes, I think.
Each of the department chairs, yeah.
Yeah. Also, I completely agree. I think it should, if we do it, it should be once a month. And I would really ask that things get vetted by the education committee before they come straight to the board.
Okay. So can we leave it in the education committee's hands to recommend who should be the special speaker at the first meeting of each month?
Sure.
And we don't know who's going to chair education committee next time around, but hopefully we'll find someone who's willing to do that for us.
Right, and if education continues to meet, when it's been meeting, it would probably be the second meeting of the month when we'd have somebody come.
Okay. And again, we're discussing the agenda for next meeting, which will include, let's see, the board meeting calendar, an initial gathering of interest on who's going to want to participate in each of the committees. There are specific things that we do have to accomplish in the first meeting of the board year. Nomination, I'm sorry, not nomination, but swearing in of all of the new board members and things. Brian?
Along with that agenda, then, my feeling for quite some time is that we seem to lack demonstrated progress with committees. So I would like to reevaluate what committees we have.
Okay.
And where we go from there.
We can discuss that, and it will be something that eventually will be referred to policy, because we have a policy that says which committees we're supposed to have. Yep. Anything else for next meeting's agenda? Betty?
Along with what Brian was just saying, I think making sure that each committee re-looks at their charter to make sure it's still reflecting what that committee should be doing.
Okay. Karen?
Did you carry over the, what Neil had on this agenda? I don't know if you mentioned that.
Yeah, I did.
You did. And then also are we going to be discussing the school year calendar as well?
On there.
Okay.
Rob?
I'd like to get just a little bit more dialed in terms of the joint meeting we have on the 27th with the Budget Committee, in terms of kind of dialing that in as what we're hoping to achieve there.
Okay.
Have you had a response yet?
Yeah, Neil agreed that we could do it on that day.
Wayne did, yeah.
That was Wayne. I do that a lot.
And that was March 27th.
27th, 7 p.m., I believe. It's in here.
6:30, I think, is the time. We'll double check.
All right.
It says 7 in here, but I thought we put it at 6:30. I'll find out.
Official calendar says 6:30.
Is that meeting open to the public?
All right, so it sounds like we've got a lot that we're going to talk about at the next board meeting, a lot we have to accomplish. Good. Do we have anyone who wants to speak in second public comment? Anyone? No? Not Marie? No? All right, then we're going to go into non-public, and we know that we have at least 2 sessions that are necessary. Betty?
As I sign this book, do we need to vote on the manifest?
Yeah, we just forgot to put it on the agenda. If we could, please.
Okay.
Oops.
Do you guys want a chance to look at this before we vote?
I looked at the copies that she sent me.
Do you have enough signatures?
Yeah.
Don't you want to do it one last time?
Then should I go ahead and move it, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I'd like to move the manifest in the amount of $1,968,010.92.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and abstentions? Good. Now, I think that we can go into non-public.